super happy to be here today and hear about people's founders' journeys. So I'm going to first introduce myself and tell you a bit about my founder journey, and then each of our celebrities is going to do the same. And then I'm just going to throw a few questions at them, and then we're going to open it up to the audience to hear your burning questions and what you want to ask the founders. So as myself, I've founded 3 companies and also Gradient Ventures, if you call founding a venture firm founding something. I definitely do, because we also co-create Gradient with our founders, and each year we say, you know, how can we do better? Who do you want to see at Gradient next year? So we've added marketing and sales and leadership coaching and a whole host of things that help our founders. And in case you don't know, Gradient is Google's AI-focused venture fund. So we do pre-seed through, I guess this year we'd probably do a recap of a B, but usually pre-seed through A. So as technology advances, founders have to navigate this new terrain in AI. And I first want to hear about everybody's founder's journey. So Steve, do you want to go next?
Sure. I mean, I was involved back in the 90s at the Google, before Google, Inc. for those of us that are older here. Involved around here with the founding of Akamai, spent a lot of time in these buildings. Then built Endeca, database company that we ended up at Oracle. Launched Toast in my living room, which is across the river. Spending a lot of time in wireless, right? So which is totally different, but more in the physics and chips and stuff like that. And a whole host of other companies I've been closely associated with. So.
Cool. Dileep?
I'm Dileep. I started 2 AI companies. The first one was in 2005 with Jeff Hawkins and Don Dubinsky. It is called Numenta. It's still running. And I was also one of the, I attended one of the first summer schools. I think it was the very first summer schools on deep learning organized by Jeff Hinton in 2004 or something. And he was handing out cash to students who turned up because the admin was not working, etc. Yeah, long history in deep learning and AI. And my second company was in 2010, again, before AI was a thing. So I went through the journey of convincing investors about AI and telling them about AI. Recently, Vicarious, that second company, was acquired by Alphabet, and now I am at Alphabet. So I have gone through the early research phase from early, convincing investors to
when AI was a bad word.
When AI was a bad word, it was, in fact, many people advised me to use cognitive computing because IBM was doing cognitive computing at that time. And yeah, so interesting to see the current energy in the field.
It's definitely gone through times of being an object of ridicule and jest. I have a PhD in computer science, and it even predates your 2010. All right, Steve, Brian, we'd love to hear your founder journey.
No problem. I'm Brian Halligan. I actually went to school here, graduated in 2006, and my company that I founded was literally founded in this building, and it was born of this building. And I just think of HubSpot as like, I met my co-founder here, Dharmesh. Where's Dharmesh? Raise your hand, Dharmesh. There he is. How we doing? Nice to see you. Great place to meet a co-founder. And then we raised our angel round here. Does anyone know who put the first $1 million into HubSpot? Okay, the first person who put money in was a guy named Ed Roberts, a professor here. And Ed Roberts is a well-known professor at Sloan. Let's just say he's loquacious. We pitched him. We had an hour pitch. He spoke for 59 of the 60 minutes. At the end of the pitch, the minute, he said, I love the idea. How much you need? Foolishly, we said 100K. He said, sure.
Is he still investing?
And anyone know where the other 900K came from? Little known secret. Our classmates. So you walk around Sloan, there's a bunch of Sloanies here. A lot of them, they don't look like they have any money. They got a crappy backpack on, they got rips in their jeans and shitty sneakers on. It turns out they don't have any money. Their parents have a lot of money. We raised $900,000 from our classmates' parents. And then we got going and we needed customers, and 9 out of our first test customers were Sloan grads, and we needed some employees, and 9 out of our first 10 employees were Sloan grads. So HubSpot was built literally from the Sloan School, and I couldn't appreciate this place anymore. And then I started something called Propeller. It's my new thing. I wanted to do the climate change post HubSpot. I did a journey and visited all kinds of professors and venture capitalists and entrepreneurs and asked them about climate change, people really deep in it. And you know, climate change people, the deeper they are into climate change, the more depressing they are. They're exhausting. And then one day I visited the Woods Hole Oceanographic Institution, which is kind of like MIT for the ocean. You know what oceanographers are? Optimistic about climate change. The ocean got us out of the last ice age. The ocean absorbs most of the carbon dioxide already, absorbs most of the excess heat, produces most of the oxygen. So I got interested in oceans, investing in oceans. No one was doing it. So I started this thing called Propeller. It's a venture fund, $150 million venture fund. And we invest at the sort of intersection of oceans and climate change. That's what I'm up to.
Cool. Okay, we're going to start by asking everybody one question, and then we can open it up. So, Dileep, since you founded 2 AI companies, how can founders leverage AI to create innovative products and kind of win in the market?
So the situation in AI is very different from when I started, right? We had to build everything from scratch. There was no PyTorch. There was no, GPU, to fix the driver errors, all those things, all right? It's in a very different place now, and lots of applications can be built by following a recipe of, one, understanding the customer needs very well. That doesn't go away. That you need to do. And second, how to address those customer needs using foundation models and a mashup of those, how to address that. And looks like the techniques have crossed a usability threshold that you can actually do that. You can actually, without having to hand code gradients, you can actually go and you can actually mash up these foundation models and bring utility to the customers. But the third part that you really need to be worried about is a demo to deployment gap that all AI systems have. It's very easy to create a demo in the lab. It's very easy to create a demo that will blow an investor away. But to make it to deployment and to get customer value out of it, there's a big gap in real world deployment, and that's all the tail end cases that comes up in AI. You have to be aware of that and mitigate that from day one. And whether it's human in the loop, and most applications will need human in the loop, you need to invest in that from day one and understand what exactly is the workflow that will make your customer successful. I think, but there is a reasonably good recipe to follow there.
Cool. All right, Steve. So do you think that the opportunities that are facing founders building AI-driven enterprise companies are any different than they were building an enterprise company, and how they differ?
Honestly, I think it's the same. I think the question I would ask is, if you go through these journeys of companies that have been successful, how would AI have made a difference in their journey? And I'll give you an example. When we started Endeca, it actually wasn't to build the navigation database. It was to build basically the pricing database of every object for sale on the planet. It was to take all the eBay data, classify it into taxonomies, metadata, label it, and build a price ticker for everything that was out there. Okay, and we knew that was a hard problem. We set that aside. We were like, let's assume we can do that. How would we turn it into something that would be useful? And then we quickly came on the problem that if you wouldn't be able to find anything in this morass unless you solved that problem. Now, if we could replay that today, we actually could go and label every product and create tickers for everything in the world, so that anytime you buy something, you know what it should cost. I can think of like 10 other moments over our journey where we had to build something, and we could have done it very differently with AI today. And that's why there's going to be a whole new generation of companies. We're old enough to have been to see, in the 90s, the aughts, and the teens, it's the same companies are rebuilt. They get acquired, and then a whole new generation of each of these classes of products. And there's going to be one for every one of those where AI is going to fuel it, accelerate it, make it more capital efficient, make it grow faster, make it better.
Well, all right, Brian, what advice do you have for founders looking to start companies? And what do you see are most important skills?
Okay.
Since we have like half of the people here today are thinking about or have started companies.
By the way, if you people are thinking of starting companies, I hope you stay in Boston. This is an awesome community. I'm really happy we did this. Let's hear it for John for organizing it. John. Right. San Francisco's, it's not at its peak. Let's just put it that way. Boston is a great place to build a company. But I guess my advice would be a lot of people are building AI companies. I'll give you like a really tactical idea and how I kind of think about it. Like, I agree with Steve. Take any piece of enterprise software out there. Let's take HubSpot, for example. You go into HubSpot and you want to create a report of how's your lead growth month over the last 2 years. It's very easy to do on a relative basis. For example, it probably takes you 10 clicks to do it. And there's a shitty product out there called Salesforce.com. It takes like 100,000 clicks to do it. But even that 10 clicks is a lot of clicks. So Dharmesh built something called ChatSpot, where I can just go in, and it's a whole new way to interact with software, and I just say, show me lead growth month over the last 2 years, and bam, I get the report. I don't have to get my darn head around how HubSpot thinks about reports. Every piece of enterprise software is going to go through this transition, similar to the world of DOS went to Windows, of the way you interact with this software. So pick one off. Don't pick HubSpot off because we're already on it, but pick one off. That's a good way to go about it. Pick off SAP. They deserve it.
All right, Dileep, you've been at DeepMind. I guess, how do you see AI changing the future?
Only the things I can talk about, right? DeepMind works on a variety of problems, including AlphaFold, and that all that research is going to continue. And so the way I think about it, I don't want to speak on behalf of DeepMind, is that we are still quite early. As exciting as AI is currently, I think it is still quite early. And an analogy I make is to airships. So today's language models or foundation models are like airships back in the early 1900s. There are multiple ways to fly. You don't have to fly using heavier than air flight. You can fly using balloons, and those were much more successful early on, flying using balloons. Until the 1930s, you will be surprised, even though airplanes were invented in 1903. So we are in that early phase where we can put a lot of data into the models, and
I'm worried where you're going with this, because there was a problem with those.
Yes. You can do cognitive tasks by mimicking earlier human work, which amortizing earlier human work and replicate that. But these models do not do deep reasoning and long-term planning, etc. And there will be another wave of AI which is coming, maybe another 5 years down the line, which will surprise us even more. As impressed as we are by the existing capabilities, that's just the tip of the iceberg on what AI will be able to do. That will be by modifying the architectures fundamentally and making them more data efficient and capable of long-term reasoning, etc. So I don't know what specific applications to point out. If you are surprised by what we have currently, prepare to be even more surprised.
Awesome.
Okay, I'm going to ask Steve and then Brian the same question. I think as founders, people are constantly bombarding you with advice. It could be your management team, it could be your board, it could be your friends. There's always tons of advice out there. So, Steve, what sage advice are you glad you took, or what sage advice are you glad you ignored in your founder journey?
Well, I'll actually abstract that to the advice, my stock advice. That's the hardest thing as a founder, is you seek out all sorts of experienced people who seem to have done amazing things. And every one of them has a hammer. And your problem looks like a nail. And they're going to tell you how they did it. And your job is to contextualize what they've said to your problem and ignore them. So you always face that. And it's really difficult because you look at this person that's very successful and they're telling you how you need to do it, but they're not going to take the time to contextualize it. It's not the person giving it. I mean, it's very hard to find the folks who will. So,
That's good advice.
Cool. All right, Brian, you want to answer that?
Somebody gave me some really good advice. They said, as a founder, kind of your greatest strengths are you make a lot of decisions, you like to control things, you've got your hands in everything. And that greatest strength as a founder and a CEO turns into your greatest weakness as you scale up. And that was very much the case with myself, having to let go and let go and let go. And over time, as we moved from 7 employees to 700 to 7,000, it was just a process of letting go and letting go and letting go. And that advice has served me well over 17 years.
All right, thank you. And now we're going to open it up to the audience for questions. Yeah.
Are you coming to the after party? I can't remember.
Yes.
Yeah, let's open it up for questions there. I think for time. Who has a question? Who could hold it till the after party? Right, great. Yeah, so I think for time, yeah, so why don't you do one more question? Sorry about that.
All right, cool. So let's do a lightning round. I'm going to name some trends, and then you guys say whether they're staying or fading. You ready? Neural networks.
I mean, that's the basis of all of this. And it's getting more advanced, and there'll be more abstraction layers applied to it. It's just, the dimensionality just keeps increasing. So.
Staying.
+1.
Okay, remote work.
Changing dramatically from where it's been the past 12 months.
Yeah.
Fading.
I disagree. We just did a survey of all of our HubSpot employees because everyone's trying to move people back to headquarters. And by the way, our people are all over the place, so even if you wanted to get back to headquarters, we couldn't. And then we surveyed them on how happy our employees are in headquarters versus remote. And remote employees were a lot happier than the headquarters ones. I was surprised about that. The other thing that surprised me, I didn't know it was an applause moment.
That's something you should worry about. That say something wrong.
The other thing that was interesting about was we use proxies for productivity, like sales reps. How long does it take them to come up to quota and how much revenue? They were more productive remotely. So I think there's an overreaction towards remote, and now there's a big overreaction towards headquarters. We're remote, we're staying remote, it's working great.
Wait, didn't you just tell everybody, all the entrepreneurs, to stay in Boston?
Yes.
All right, I guess that's it for the panel. Thank you, guys.
Thanks.
All right, so you come on up.